Maria stood in the courtroom, her heart racing as she faced the man she believed was the father of her child. The air was thick with tension, a palpable mix of anxiety and anticipation. She had come seeking justice, not just for herself but for her son, who deserved to know his father. The case had drawn significant media attention, and the community was sharply divided. Some rallied behind Maria, seeing her as a determined mother fighting against a system that often overlooked the struggles of women like her. Others supported João, the man she accused, fueled by their own biases and preconceived notions about race and responsibility. As the judge entered, silence fell over the room. Maria could feel the weight of everyone's gaze upon her, a mixture of sympathy and judgment. She recalled the day she had decided to take this step, how it had felt like a leap into the unknown. The relationship with João had been tumultuous, they had shared moments of passion interspersed with conflict and misunderstanding. When she discovered she estaba grávida, everything changed. João initially expressed excitement but soon distanced himself, leaving Maria alone to navigate the complexities of impending motherhood. The first hearing began with both parties presenting their sides. Maria spoke passionately about her struggles as a single mother, detailing how João's absence had affected her life and her child's well-being. João, on the other hand, maintained his innocence, asserting that he was not the father and that Maria was merely seeking financial support from him. As they exchanged words, accusations flew back and forth, revealing deep-seated prejudices that lay beneath the surface. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for, the introduction of DNA evidence. The courtroom buzzed with murmurs as the prosecutor presented the results of the first DNA test. Maria's heart raced with hope, this could finally provide clarity to her situation. However, as the forensic expert explained the findings, disappointment washed over her like a cold wave. The results were inconclusive due to a laboratory error, an unexpected twist that left everyone in disbelief. The judge's gavel echoed through the room as he called for order amidst the chaos. Maria felt a surge of frustration. How could something so critical to her case be rendered useless? The inconclusiveness only fueled animosity between her and João, who now seemed emboldened by this unexpected turn of events. The courtroom became a battleground for emotions, anger, fear, and uncertainty swirling around like a storm. In the days that followed, Maria grappled with her feelings of helplessness. She sought solace in friends who supported her but struggled to shake off the nagging doubts that plagued her mind. Was she truly doing the right thing? Would pursuing this case only bring more pain? Meanwhile, João found himself caught in a web of public scrutiny and personal turmoil. The accusations against him weighed heavily on his conscience. He felt trapped between defending his name and confronting his own fears about fatherhood. As preparations for a second hearing commenced, both sides braced themselves for another round in court. Maria knew that she needed to gather more evidence to strengthen her case. She reached out to family members and friends who could testify about her relationship with João and their interactions during her pregnancy. Each conversation reminded her of how deeply intertwined their lives had been, moments shared over laughter and tears now overshadowed by this legal battle. João also sought support from those close to him, confiding in friends who urged him to stand firm against what they perceived as an unjust accusation. He reflected on his past with Maria, the good times overshadowed by misunderstandings, and began to question whether he should confront his feelings about fatherhood head-on rather than running away from them. As both parties prepared for the next hearing, tensions escalated within their respective communities. Social media became a battleground where opinions clashed fiercely. Some defended Maria's right to seek justice while others condemned her actions as an attempt to exploit João's circumstances based solely on race. The narrative surrounding their case morphed into something larger than themselves, a reflection of societal attitudes toward race, gender roles, and parental responsibility. Finally, the day of the second hearing arrived. The courtroom was once again filled with onlookers eager to witness how this saga would unfold. Maria entered with renewed determination. She would not let fear dictate her actions any longer. As she took her seat at the plaintiff's table, she glanced at João across the room, his expression unreadable but filled with an intensity that mirrored her own resolve. The judge called proceedings to order and listened intently as both sides presented their arguments once more. This time around, Maria's attorney emphasized not only the need for clarity regarding paternity but also highlighted the emotional toll this process had taken on both parties involved, their lives forever altered by choices made in moments of passion and conflict. When it came time for new DNA results to be presented, anticipation hung heavy in the air like an impending storm. As the forensic expert detailed how rigorous protocols had been followed this time around, ensuring accurate sample collection and testing, the courtroom held its collective breath. Yet again, disappointment struck when it was revealed that while one test showed potential matches indicating paternity between João and Maria's child, another test yielded inconclusive results due to contamination concerns during sample handling, a reminder that science is not infallible. Frustration boiled over as emotions ran high. Accusations flew once more between Maria and João, a reflection of their unresolved feelings towards each other compounded by external pressures from society at large. As tensions escalated within the courtroom itself, lawyers shouting over one another while spectators gasped at every revelation, the judge called for calm once again before ultimately deciding to adjourn proceedings until further investigation could be conducted regarding these conflicting results. In those moments suspended between hope and despair lay an opportunity, a chance for both parties not only to seek resolution but also perhaps find understanding amidst chaos, a realization that beneath layers of pain lies humanity itself waiting patiently for healing through honesty rather than division fueled by fear or prejudice. With each passing day following this tumultuous hearing came reflection. Maria began contemplating what it truly meant to be a mother while grappling with expectations placed upon women within society today. Meanwhile, João wrestled internally with questions surrounding identity, who he was versus who others believed him to be, shaped largely by perceptions rooted deeply within cultural biases surrounding race relations throughout history. In time, they would both learn valuable lessons about resilience amidst adversity, discovering strength found not solely through victory achieved within courtrooms but rather within hearts willing enough embrace vulnerability necessary foster genuine connections leading ultimately toward reconciliation rather than animosity born out ignorance or misunderstanding stemming from preconceived notions regarding one another based solely upon appearances alone without consideration deeper truths hidden beneath surface-level interactions experienced throughout journey together thus far despite challenges faced a long way ahead still remaining uncertain yet hopeful nonetheless. As the case gained traction in the media, the pressure on both Maria and João intensified. Maria found herself at the center of a storm, with opinions swirling around her like autumn leaves caught in a whirlwind. On one hand, many in the community viewed her as a victim of an unjust system, a mother fighting for her child's rights against a backdrop of societal prejudice. They rallied behind her, expressing solidarity and support through social media platforms and community gatherings. On the other hand, there were those who accused her of trying to extort money from João, painting her as a manipulative figure who was willing to exploit racial tensions for personal gain. This polarization revealed deep-seated issues within society, highlighting the pervasive racial and social divides that often overshadowed individual narratives. Maria's experience was not just a personal battle, it became emblematic of larger societal struggles. The media coverage was relentless, with headlines that sensationalized every aspect of the case. Articles dissected her motivations, questioned her character, and speculated about João's past. As she scrolled through comments online, Maria felt the weight of judgment pressing down on her shoulders. Supporters praised her courage while detractors hurled insults that cut deeply. The dichotomy of public opinion left her feeling vulnerable, oscillating between empowerment from those who believed in her cause and despair from those who sought to undermine it. In this charged atmosphere, João was also grappling with his own demons. The accusations against him were not just legal, they were personal. He found himself facing a community that had once embraced him but now viewed him through a lens tainted by suspicion and prejudice. The media painted him as a potential villain in this unfolding drama, and he struggled to maintain his dignity amidst the chaos. Friends reached out to offer support, but even their words felt heavy with implications. Was he truly innocent? Did he deserve the backlash? As he navigated these questions, João realized that the case was not merely about paternity, it was about identity and perception in a world quick to judge based on race. As tensions escalated, both parties prepared for the next phase of the legal battle, a new DNA test that everyone hoped would finally clarify the situation. The first test had been invalidated due to a laboratory error, leaving both Maria and João in limbo, their lives suspended in uncertainty. Now, as they awaited the results of this second examination, anxiety hung in the air like an uninvited guest at a gathering. Maria felt a knot tightening in her stomach. She wanted nothing more than to know the truth about her child's father, but feared what that truth might reveal. In preparation for the upcoming hearing, Maria immersed herself in gathering evidence and testimonies that could support her claim. She reached out to friends and family who could attest to her relationship with João during her pregnancy, hoping their accounts would lend credibility to her narrative. Each conversation was a reminder of how intertwined their lives had once been, moments shared over laughter now overshadowed by this tumultuous legal battle. As she pieced together her story, Maria began to see herself not just as a victim but as an advocate for all women facing similar struggles. Meanwhile, João was also preparing for the hearing in his own way. He sought solace in his family and friends, trying to keep his head above water amidst rising tides of public scrutiny. He knew he needed to present himself well during the next court appearance. Maintaining his dignity was paramount not only for himself but also for his reputation within the community. As he practiced what he would say if called to testify again, he wrestled with feelings of anger and frustration at being placed in such a position, accused without concrete evidence. The day of the new DNA test arrived with an air of expectancy that crackled like static electricity. Both parties entered the courtroom with trepidation. This time they were armed with hope that clarity would finally emerge from the fog of uncertainty that had enveloped them for so long. The judge presiding over the case had garnered respect for his fair approach, but even he could not escape the influence of public opinion swirling outside those walls. As proceedings began anew, Maria took a deep breath and focused on why she was there, to seek justice for herself and her child. She listened intently as lawyers presented their arguments. Each word felt like another step toward resolution or further entrenchment in conflict. When it came time for the DNA results to be revealed again, tension filled every corner of the room. The forensic expert stepped forward with palpable gravitas. All eyes turned toward him as he began to explain how rigorous protocols had been followed this time around, ensuring accurate sample collection and testing procedures were adhered to meticulously. As he began detailing findings from this second round of testing, results indicating potential matches, the courtroom held its breath collectively. Yet again disappointment loomed large, and it was revealed that while one test showed promising leads indicating paternity between João and Maria's child based on genetic markers analyzed under strict conditions during sampling processes conducted by professionals trained specifically for such tasks, another test yielded inconclusive results due to contamination concerns during handling procedures prior testing phases leading up this momentous occasion. Frustration erupted within an already charged atmosphere. Accusations flew once more between Maria and João, a reflection not only of unresolved feelings towards each other but also compounded by external pressures from society at large which seemed determined to dictate narratives surrounding their lives irrespective of truth itself. As emotions ran high, their voices raised above whispers echoing throughout courtroom, lawyers shouted over one another while spectators gasped at every revelation. The judge called for calm once again before ultimately deciding adjourn proceedings until further investigation could be conducted regarding these conflicting results. In those moments suspended between hope and despair lay an opportunity, a chance for both parties not only seek resolution but also perhaps find understanding amidst chaos. A realization that beneath layers pain lies humanity itself waiting patiently healing through honesty rather division fueled by fear or prejudice stemming from preconceived notions regarding one another based solely upon appearances alone without consideration deeper truths hidden beneath surface level interactions experienced. Throughout journey together thus far despite challenges faced a long way ahead still remaining uncertain yet hopeful nonetheless. The courtroom was charged with an electric tension as the final hearing approached its climax. Maria sat at the plaintiff's table, her heart pounding in her chest, a mix of hope and dread swirling within her. The judge, a figure of authority and calm amidst the chaos, held the envelope that contained the results of the new DNA test. All eyes were fixed on him, the air thick with anticipation. Maria could feel the weight of her community's expectations pressing down on her. She had become a symbol of resilience and struggle, but also a target for criticism and doubt. As the judge carefully opened the envelope, time seemed to slow. The murmurs in the courtroom faded into silence, every individual holding their breath in expectation. Maria's mind raced back to all the moments that had led her here, the pain of raising a child alone, the accusations against João, and the relentless scrutiny from both supporters and detractors. She had fought hard for this moment, believing that truth would finally prevail. When the judge finally spoke, his voice echoed through the room like a thunderclap. The results indicate that João is not the biological father of Maria's child. A collective gasp swept through the audience as disbelief washed over them. The judge continued, "The DNA results point to another individual, an esteemed judge within our community." The revelation sent shockwaves through the room, gasps turned into whispers, and Maria felt as if the ground had shifted beneath her feet. João's face reflected a mixture of relief and confusion. He had been accused of something he did not do, but now another man's identity was thrust into the spotlight, a man who had been respected and trusted by many. The implications were profound. This was no longer just about paternity but about accountability and moral responsibility. Maria's heart raced as she processed what this meant for her child and for herself. The judge's announcement ignited a firestorm of emotions. Maria felt betrayed, not just by João but by a system that had failed to protect her from this turmoil. She had sought justice for her child, only to uncover a deeper betrayal involving someone who held power in their community. As she looked around the courtroom, she saw faces filled with shock and judgment. Some were sympathetic to her plight while others whispered accusations against her character. In that moment, the atmosphere shifted dramatically from one of anticipation to one of moral conflict. The judge who had been revealed as the biological father now faced his own crisis. He had lived under a veil of respectability while hiding a significant part of his life from public view. The weight of his actions loomed large. He was not just a figure in a courtroom but a father who had abandoned his responsibilities. As he sat there, grappling with his conscience, he understood that this revelation would change everything, not only for Maria and João but for him as well. The discussion that ensued was charged with emotion and ethical dilemmas. Questions about paternity and responsibility swirled around like leaves caught in a storm. How could a man in such a position have allowed this situation to unfold? What did it mean to be a father? The courtroom transformed into a battleground for ideas about morality, duty, and social expectations. Maria found herself at the center of this moral reckoning. She stood up to speak, her voice trembling but resolute. "I came here seeking justice for my child," she began, "but what I've uncovered goes beyond my personal struggle." Her words resonated deeply with those present. They were not just about her fight for recognition but about the broader implications of their societal values regarding parenthood and accountability. As she spoke, she could see João listening intently, his expression shifting from anger to understanding. He realized that this was not merely about him being accused, it was about all men who fled from their responsibilities and all women who bore the burden alone. The revelations forced everyone in that room to confront uncomfortable truths about their own lives and choices. The judge, who was revealed as the biological father, sat silently as Maria continued to articulate her pain and anger toward a system that allowed such injustices to occur. His heart sank under the weight of his actions. He had failed not only Maria but also his own child by hiding behind his position instead of stepping forward to take responsibility. As discussions continued, it became clear that this case would not end with mere legal judgments but would spark conversations throughout their community about race, gender roles, and societal expectations surrounding parenthood. The fallout from these revelations would ripple far beyond this courtroom, prompting debates in homes, schools, and local gatherings. In an unexpected twist of fate, what began as a personal battle for paternity evolved into a larger movement advocating for transparency and accountability among those in power. Maria's courage ignited discussions about what it truly meant to be responsible, not just legally but morally, as parents. As tensions began to ease following hours of heated debate within those walls filled with voices echoing sentiments both supportive and critical alike, one thing became abundantly clear: they were all intertwined in this narrative woven together by shared experiences shaped by choices made long before any courtroom battles began. Ultimately, they left that day not just with answers regarding paternity but also with questions lingering on their hearts, questions about identity, responsibility, and what it means to truly care for another human being amidst societal pressures demanding conformity over compassion. In time, they would learn valuable lessons through adversity, discovering strength found not solely through victory achieved within courtrooms but rather within hearts willing enough embrace vulnerability necessary foster genuine connections leading ultimately toward reconciliation rather than animosity born out ignorance or misunderstanding stemming from preconceived notions regarding one another based solely upon appearances alone without consideration deeper truths, hidden beneath surface level interactions experienced throughout journey together thus far despite challenges faced a long way ahead still remaining uncertain yet hopeful nonetheless. The revelation of the true paternity sent shockwaves through the community, igniting a firestorm of reactions that echoed far beyond the confines of the courtroom. Social media erupted with fervent discussions, as hashtags proliferated and opinions clashed in a digital arena that had become a battleground for race, responsibility, and justice. Maria, once seen as a solitary figure fighting against an oppressive system, was now hailed by many as a hero, a woman who had bravely exposed the truth in a world that often silenced voices like hers. Supporters rallied around her, sharing her story and amplifying her message about the struggles faced by single mothers and the systemic inequalities that permeated their lives. Yet, with this newfound support came an equally fierce backlash. Critics emerged from the shadows, accusing Maria of manipulation and exploitation. They questioned her motives, suggesting that she had orchestrated this entire ordeal to gain financial support at the expense of a respected member of the community. The judge, whose identity had been revealed as the biological father, became a target for public outrage. Many felt betrayed by someone they had trusted to uphold justice and fairness in their community. The discussions surrounding his actions sparked debates about accountability and moral responsibility, questions that resonated deeply within the fabric of society. As Maria navigated this tumultuous landscape, she found herself grappling with not only public perception but also her own emotions. The weight of the revelation pressed heavily on her heart. She was no longer just fighting for her child's rights but was now thrust into a larger narrative about race and societal expectations. She felt compelled to articulate her experiences, sharing her journey with anyone willing to listen. In interviews and public forums, she spoke passionately about the challenges faced by women like her, those who dared to challenge societal norms in pursuit of justice. Meanwhile, João experienced his own turmoil as he processed the fallout from the court's decision. Initially relieved to be exonerated from paternity claims, he soon found himself embroiled in a different kind of conflict, one that questioned his integrity and character. Friends who once stood by him began to distance themselves, unsure of how to reconcile their feelings about his involvement in such a scandalous affair. He faced whispers behind closed doors and pointed fingers in public spaces. It was as if he had become a pariah overnight. The judge's life was equally turned upside down. Once a figure of respect and authority, he now faced intense scrutiny from both his peers and the public. His colleagues questioned his judgment, while community members expressed outrage at his actions. The duality of his role, as both a legal authority and an absentee father, created an internal conflict that left him reeling. He had spent years building a reputation based on integrity and fairness, only to see it crumble under the weight of his past decisions. As Maria continued to share her story, she became increasingly aware of the emotional toll it was taking on her. The pressure to represent not only herself but also other women facing similar struggles weighed heavily on her shoulders. She sought solace in therapy, where she could unpack her feelings without judgment. In those sessions, she confronted feelings of anger and betrayal, not just towards João or the judge but also towards herself for having trusted them both at different points in her life. The discussions surrounding race and paternity also began to seep into Maria's personal relationships. Friends who had once been supportive started expressing discomfort with her newfound visibility. They worried about being associated with such a contentious case. This shift left Maria feeling isolated at times, as if she were navigating uncharted waters alone. She began to question who truly supported her and whether those relationships were built on genuine connection or merely convenience. For João, the fallout prompted introspection about his own identity and values. He reflected on how easily perceptions could shift based on circumstances beyond one's control. As he faced criticism from peers and community members alike, he realized that he needed to take responsibility for his past actions, not just in relation to Maria but also in how he engaged with issues of race and privilege moving forward. The judge grappled with similar questions about accountability and legacy. As he watched Maria emerge as a voice for change within their community, he felt compelled to confront his own shortcomings as both a father and a public servant. He understood that he could no longer hide behind his title. Instead, he needed to engage in meaningful dialogue about responsibility, both personal and societal. As weeks turned into months following the revelation, discussions around race, paternity, and social justice continued to evolve within their community. Town halls were organized where residents could voice their opinions openly. These gatherings became platforms for healing as well as confrontation. Maria attended these meetings not just as an advocate for herself but as someone committed to fostering understanding among diverse perspectives. In these spaces filled with passionate voices, some supportive while others remained critical, Maria found strength in vulnerability. She shared her story not just as a tale of personal struggle but as part of a larger narrative about systemic injustice faced by many marginalized individuals within society. Through it all, the backlash against her bravery juxtaposed with newfound allies, Maria emerged more resilient than ever before. She recognized that while she could not control how others perceived her journey or reacted to its complexities, she could choose how to respond, with grace amid adversity. As conversations persisted around issues that transcended individual experiences, the intersections between race relations and family dynamics, Maria became increasingly aware of her role within this broader dialogue. She understood that change would not happen overnight but believed wholeheartedly in its possibility through collective action fueled by empathy rather than division. In time, both João and the judge began engaging more actively in these conversations alongside Maria. They recognized their shared responsibility toward creating an equitable future for all members of their community regardless of background or circumstance. Ultimately, what began as a deeply personal battle transformed into something greater, a movement toward understanding rooted deeply within shared humanity rather than superficial labels imposed upon them by society at large. Maria sat in her small, dimly lit living room, the weight of the world pressing down on her shoulders. The recent revelations had turned her life upside down, and she found herself lost in a whirlwind of emotions. As she stared out the window, watching the leaves sway gently in the autumn breeze, she began to reflect on her journey, a journey that had started as a quest for financial support but had morphed into something much deeper. It was no longer just about money, it was about dignity, recognition, and her place in a society that often marginalized voices like hers. The courtroom drama had unfolded like a tragic play, with each act revealing layers of complexity that she had never anticipated. With the truth now out in the open, Maria felt a mix of empowerment and vulnerability. She had fought against a system that seemed rigged against her, and while she had garnered support from many who viewed her as a heroine, there were still whispers of doubt and judgment. The experience had forced her to confront not only the challenges of single motherhood but also the societal expectations placed upon her as a woman of color seeking justice. As she navigated these turbulent waters, Maria realized that she needed help to process her emotions. The internal dialogue grew louder. She questioned herself constantly. Was she strong enough? Did she deserve this fight? Was it worth the toll it had taken on her mental health? The answers eluded her, leading to sleepless nights filled with anxiety and self-doubt. It became clear that seeking psychological support was not just an option, it was a necessity. She reached out to a therapist who specialized in trauma and empowerment, hoping to find clarity amidst the chaos. In therapy, Maria began to unpack her feelings. She spoke candidly about her fears and frustrations, the anger at having been thrust into such a public battle, the pain of feeling unsupported by those closest to her at times, and the overwhelming sense of responsibility to represent all women who faced similar struggles. Her therapist guided her through exercises that encouraged self-compassion and reflection, helping Maria understand that her worth was not defined by others' opinions or societal norms. Each session became a sanctuary where she could explore her identity beyond the labels imposed upon her. Meanwhile, João was also grappling with his own demons. After being unjustly accused and subsequently exonerated in the public eye, he found himself at a crossroads. The fallout from the case had strained his relationships with family and friends alike. He felt like an outsider in his own life. People who once embraced him now looked at him with suspicion or pity. This realization hit hard. He understood that he needed to reconnect with his family and rebuild those bonds that had been frayed by public scrutiny. João reached out to his parents, hoping to mend the rift that had formed during the tumultuous months following the revelation of his non-paternity. They welcomed him home with open arms but also with questions about his decisions, his character, and how he planned to move forward after such an ordeal. Sitting at the kitchen table where they had shared countless meals and laughter over the years, João felt a rush of nostalgia mixed with regret. He realized how much he had taken for granted before this entire situation unfolded. In conversations with his family, he opened up about his feelings of shame and confusion. He expressed how deeply affected he was by being thrust into a public scandal, how it made him question his own identity and values. His parents listened intently, offering words of encouragement while also challenging him to reflect on what kind of man he wanted to be moving forward. They urged him to take responsibility for his actions and to use this experience as an opportunity for growth rather than retreating into despair. As weeks passed, both Maria and João began their journeys toward healing. Though their paths were distinctly different, they were united by their shared experiences of pain and resilience. Maria continued attending therapy sessions regularly while also engaging in community activism focused on supporting single mothers facing systemic challenges. She found empowerment in sharing her story publicly. Each time she spoke out about her experiences, it became less about vindication and more about advocacy for others who felt voiceless. João sought ways to re-establish himself within his community as well. He volunteered at local organizations aimed at helping young men navigate fatherhood, sharing his story not as one of shame but as one of cautionary wisdom learned through hardship. Through these efforts, he hoped to redefine his narrative while also contributing positively to those around him. Both Maria and João learned valuable lessons about vulnerability and strength during this time of introspection and reconciliation. Maria discovered that seeking help did not signify weakness, rather, it was an act of courage that allowed her to reclaim her narrative from those who sought to define it for her. João realized that true character is revealed not in moments of triumph but in how one responds to adversity, by taking ownership of past mistakes while striving for personal growth. As they moved forward separately yet intertwined by their shared history, both began to see glimmers of hope on their horizons, hope rooted in self-acceptance and renewed purpose. Maria's activism flourished as she connected with other women who shared similar struggles. Together they formed a support network that fostered strength through solidarity. João found fulfillment in mentoring young fathers who faced challenges similar to those he once did, offering guidance born from hard-earned lessons learned along the way. In time, both would come to understand that their journeys were not just personal battles but part of a larger tapestry woven from countless stories filled with struggle but also resilience, a testament to human strength amid adversity. The judge, once a figure of authority and respect in the community, stood at a crossroads in his life. The revelation of his paternity had not only shaken the foundations of his personal life but had also cast a long shadow over his professional reputation. In a moment of deep reflection, he realized that true responsibility extended beyond mere acknowledgement, it required action. With this understanding, he decided to publicly assume his role as the father of Maria's child, seeking to repair the damage caused by the unexpected revelation. This was not just about financial support, it was about recognizing that fatherhood encompassed emotional involvement and a commitment to nurturing the child's future. In a press conference that captured the attention of the media and community alike, the judge spoke candidly about his decision. He expressed remorse for the pain caused to both Maria and the child, acknowledging that his absence had been a failure not only as a father but also as a member of society. He committed to providing financial support and being an active presence in their lives, emphasizing that paternity was not merely defined by biology but by the willingness to engage and support. His words resonated with many, stirring conversations about accountability and the importance of taking responsibility for one's actions. As news of his commitment spread, the community began to reflect on their own perceptions of fatherhood and responsibility. The judge's admission sparked discussions about what it meant to be a parent in today's society, how societal norms often dictated expectations that were not always aligned with reality. Many began to see him not just as a figure of authority but as an individual grappling with his own mistakes, prompting empathy rather than judgment. Meanwhile, Maria was inspired by these developments. She recognized that her fight for justice had opened doors for broader discussions about race, gender, and parental responsibility. Fueled by this realization, she decided to launch a campaign aimed at supporting other women who found themselves in similar situations, women who face systemic barriers while striving for recognition and support in their roles as mothers. This initiative would not only address issues related to paternity but also focus on raising awareness about racial prejudice and advocating for women's rights within the community. Maria's campaign quickly gained traction as she reached out to local organizations, activists, and community leaders who shared her vision for change. Together, they organized workshops, seminars, and community forums where women could share their stories and experiences. These gatherings became safe spaces for dialogue, places where individuals could confront uncomfortable truths about societal expectations surrounding motherhood and race. The response from the community was overwhelmingly positive. Many rallied behind Maria's cause, eager to contribute their voices to this important conversation. Social media became a powerful tool for spreading awareness. Hashtags promoting her campaign trended locally as people shared their stories of struggle and resilience. Maria found herself at the forefront of a movement that sought not only to empower women but also to challenge deeply ingrained societal norms regarding race and family dynamics. As discussions continued to unfold within the community, it became evident that change was on the horizon. The judge's public acknowledgement of his responsibilities had set a precedent. It encouraged others in positions of power to reflect on their roles within society. Conversations shifted from blame and judgment toward understanding and accountability, a collective recognition that everyone has a part to play in fostering an equitable environment. Through her campaign, Maria emphasized the importance of solidarity among women facing similar challenges. She highlighted stories of triumph amidst adversity, of single mothers who had overcome obstacles through resilience and community support.